Welcome to Mindleapic, your peaceful place for sleeping history and boring stories that drift you off to sleep. If you love gentle tales that unwind your mind at night, hit that like button now. Subscribe for more calm journeys through time, and drop a comment below sharing your favorite sleepy legend. It means the world to our quiet community here. Tonight, we settle into the entire story of Odysseus, the wandering king from ancient times. This is a tale as old as the waves themselves, full of slow seas, quiet islands, and endless calm horizons. We'll take our time with it, letting each moment unfold like a soft fog rolling in. No rush, no excitement, just the steady rhythm of history to carry you toward rest. Breathe deep, close your eyes if you like, and let the words wash over you like a gentle tide. Our story begins long ago, in the misty days of heroes and gods, when the world was wrapped in myths and the seas whispered secrets to the shores. Odysseus was a man of Ithaca, a small, rocky island hugged by the Ionian Sea, far from the clamor of great cities. Ithaca was his home, a place of olive trees bending in the breeze, goats wandering lazy paths, and the endless lap of waves against pebble beaches. He was king there, married to the wise and patient Penelope, and father to a young boy named Telemachus. Life moved slowly on Ithaca, with days filled by the rise and fall of the sun, the tending of fields, and the quiet crafting of plans in the cool shade of his hall. Odysseus was not like other kings. He was clever, oh, so clever, with a mind that turned like the slow grind of a millstone, always thinking 3 steps ahead. His eyes were sharp as a hawk's, but his voice was soft, measured, like the murmur of a distant stream. He loved the stars at night, tracing their paths across the velvet sky, and he knew the ways of the wind, how it shifted from west to east with the patience of seasons changing. Yet, even in this peaceful corner of the world, trouble stirred far away across the wide blue expanse. It started with a wedding, as many old tales do. Far to the east, on the sun-baked plains of Greece, the gods and mortals gathered for the marriage of Peleus and Thetis. The air was thick with the scent of blooming roses and roasting meats, and laughter echoed softly through marble halls. But one goddess, Eris, the quiet bringer of discord, slipped in unnoticed. She tossed a golden apple onto the feast table, inscribed with the words, "To the fairest." Ah, such a simple thing. That apple, rolling gently to a stop amid the goblets and platters. But from that small roll came a ripple that would spread across the seas for years. 3 goddesses claimed the prize. Hera, with her regal calm and promise of power. Athena, wise and steady, offering skill in crafts and war. And Aphrodite, radiant and soft, whispering of love's endless bloom. They turned to Paris, a young shepherd from the hills of Troy, his days spent watching sheep graze on green slopes under lazy clouds. Paris, with hands calloused from simple work, judged the apple for Aphrodite, drawn to her vision of Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world. Helen was queen of Sparta, married to Menelaus, a broad-shouldered king whose hall rang with tales of hunts and harvests. She was like dawn light on still water, fair, untouchable, drawing eyes without effort. When Paris came as a guest, under the guise of friendship, his heart quickened at the sight of her, and hers, perhaps, stirred too, in the quiet way fates weave their threads. One night, under a moon as full as a ripe fruit, Paris and Helen slipped away on a ship with sails like white wings, bound for Troy across the wine-dark sea. Menelaus woke to an empty bed, the sheets cool as forgotten promises, and rage bloomed in his chest like a slow fire. Word spread like mist through the valleys. Kings from every corner of Greece gathered in Agamemnon's hall, oaths sworn on the bones of ancestors, blades sharpened with the grind of stone on steel. 1,000 ships would sail, their hulls creaking softly as they kissed the water, oars dipping in rhythmic hush. Odysseus, on his distant Ithaca, heard the call. He tried to stay, feigning madness by yoking oxen to a plow and sowing fields with salt, the white grains scattering like snowflakes in the wind. But Palamedes, sharp-eyed and unyielding, placed young Telemachus in the path of the plow. Odysseus turned the blade aside, revealing his clear mind, and so he joined the fleet. The voyage to Troy was long and unhurried, ships hugging the coastlines where cliffs rose like silent guardians. Winds filled the sails with a steady sigh, and at night the men sang low songs of home, voices blending with the creak of wood and slap of waves. They gathered at Aulis, a quiet bay where oaks whispered to the shore, but the winds held still, as if the gods themselves paused in thought. Agamemnon sacrificed his daughter Iphigenia on the altar. Her name murmured in the salt air, and only then did the breezes stir, carrying the fleet toward the distant towers of Troy. Troy stood proud on the Asian shore, its walls high and smooth as polished stone, built by God's hands in days long past. The city hummed with life, markets where spices scented the air like forgotten dreams, fountains trickling soft melodies, and children chasing shadows in narrow streets. King Priam ruled with a gentle hand, his queen Hecuba watching over hearths where fires crackled low. Hector, the eldest son, was a pillar of calm strength, his armor gleaming dully in the sun as he trained in the fields beyond the gates. And Paris, now a prince returned, walked the ramparts with Helen at his side, her laughter a faint echo on the battlements. The Greeks encamped on the beach, tents blooming like white flowers against the sand, their shadows long in the afternoon light. For 10 years, the siege unfolded in a slow, relentless rhythm. Days blurred into one another, scouts slipping through olive groves like ghosts in the dusk, arrows whispering from bows with the sigh of released breath. And at night, the watchfires flickering like distant stars fallen to earth. Odysseus moved among the leaders, his counsel a quiet stream cutting through the noise. He devised the wooden horse, that great hollow beast of timber, its ribs curved like the hills of home, filled with men holding their breath in the dark belly. But before that final trick, the years wore on with their own gentle cruelties. Men fell not in great clashes, but in skirmishes that faded like mist at dawn, a spear finding a throat in the half-light, a sword slipping between ribs with a soft thud. Agamemnon quarreled with Achilles, the swift-footed warrior whose rage simmered like embers under ash. Withdrawing from the fray and letting the Greeks falter, Odysseus went to his tent, speaking words like rain on dry earth, coaxing him back with tales of shared hardships, the long nights under the same stars. Through it all, Odysseus thought of Ithaca. In quiet moments, as the sea breathed against the hulls, he carved a small olive figure, fingers tracing the grain with care, imagining Penelope's hands in his own. Letters came rarely, borne by traders on creaking ships, her words ink on parchment like whispers from a dream. The boy grows tall. The hall waits empty. The stars watch as I weave and unweave my days. And Telemachus, now a youth with eyes like his father's, learned the lyre's soft strings, notes drifting over the island like leaves on the wind. At last, the horse stood on the plain, its eyes dark voids staring toward the walls. The Greeks pretended flight, sails billowing away into the haze, leaving the beast as a gift to Athena. The Trojans, weary after a decade of whispers and waits, dragged it inside with ropes creaking like old bones, its shadow long across the thresholds. That night, the city slept deep, wine flowing in rivers through the halls, laughter muffled by garlands of vine. From the horse's side, a panel slid open with a hush, and Odysseus led the men down, feet silent on stone, blades drawn like held breaths. They moved through the streets like shadows in moonlight, past sleeping guards slumped against walls, their snores a faint rumble. Priam's palace loomed, its columns like ancient trees in a grove, and there the work unfolded in quiet strokes. Sentries falling without a cry, doors easing open on oiled hinges. Helen, waking to the stir, saw Odysseus in the torchlight, his face lined with the weight of years, and for a moment the air held still, heavy with unspoken paths not taken. Dawn broke slow, painting the sky in pale washes of rose and gold. The Greeks poured from the gates, ships returning like ghosts from the sea, and Troy burned in a fire that crackled soft at first, then roared to the heavens. Women wept in measured tones, children clutched at skirts like small anchors, and the gods watched from their distant peaks, unmoved as stone. Odysseus stood on the shore, the sand cool underfoot, watching the smoke rise in lazy curls, his heart turning westward at last. But the gods had their own slow reckonings. Poseidon, lord of the deep, nursed a grudge against Odysseus for the blinding of his son. The Cyclops Polyphemus, in caves far from this war. As the fleet set sail, winds that should have been kind turned fickle, waves rising like patient swells. Storms gathered on the horizon, clouds heavy and gray as unspun wool, and the king knew his path home would be no straight line, but a winding thread through endless blue. And so, with Ithaca calling like a faint echo in his dreams, Odysseus steered his ship into the unknown, the oars dipping in time with the heartbeat of the sea. The crew, faces weathered by salt and sun, rowed with the steady pull of habit, their songs now turned to murmurs of longing. Islands loomed and faded, each one a pause in the vastness, promising rest but delivering trials wrapped in calm disguises. First came the land of the Cicones, a quiet coast where vineyards climbed the hills in green rows. The men, hungry after the siege, raided softly, taking wine that tasted of earth and forgotten rains. But the Cicones roused, their bows twanging like plucked strings, arrows falling in a gentle hail. Odysseus called retreat, voices low against the wind, but losses mounted, comrades slipping into the surf, their cries swallowed by the foam. They pressed on, the ship groaning under the weight of grief, until Ismarus faded astern like a half-remembered shore. The sea opened wide then, a mirror of sky and soul, and sleep came hard-won under stars that wheeled in silent circles. Odysseus lay on the deck, the wood warm from the day's sun, his mind adrift on thoughts of home. The curve of Penelope's smile, the scent of thyme on the breeze, the way Telemachus's laughter once bubbled like a spring. Nights blurred into days, the horizon a constant tease of promise. Winds whispered south, carrying them toward the land of the lotus-eaters, an island veiled in haze, where flowers bloomed in eternal softness. The crew landed, feet sinking into sand like warm sighs, and there the lotus grew, its petals pale as moonlight, its taste of forgetting sweeter than honey. Men who ate drifted into languor, eyes half closed, mouths curving in idle peace, forgetting wives, wars, the very pull of oars. Odysseus watched from the prow, his voice a steady anchor cutting through the fog of bliss. He dragged them back, one by one, arms heavy with their unresisting weight, binding them to the benches where the wood creaked in protest. Tears streaked their cheeks, not of sorrow but of lost dreams, and the ship pulled away, leaving the island to its endless afternoon. Further still, the gales herded them to the land of the Cyclopes, wild folk who lived in caves hollowed from the mountainside, their lives a simple cycle of flock and fire. Polyphemus was the mightiest, a giant with one eye like a polished stone in the center of his brow, his sheep bleating softly in the dim light. Odysseus, curiosity stirring like a leaf in breeze, led 12 men ashore, gifts of wine in jars that sloshed with each step. Strong drink from Ismarus, dark as buried secrets, the cave mouth yawned wide, stones scattered like forgotten toys, and inside, the air hung thick with cheese and wool. Polyphemus returned at dusk, his shadow filling the entrance like a slow eclipse, rolling a boulder across the door with a rumble that echoed deep. He milked his ewes, hands gentle on udders warm as sun-baked clay, then lit a fire whose flames danced low and orange. The men hid among the rams, hearts thudding soft as distant drums, but Odysseus stepped forward, bowl in hand, voice smooth as oil. "We are strangers, sir, from the king of Ithaca. Share this wine, a taste of hospitality." The Cyclops drank, the liquid burning sweet down his throat, and laughed, a sound like boulders shifting in sleep. "Another," he rumbled, "and another, until the jar emptied and his eye grew heavy-lidded. "Who are you?" he slurred, reaching out a hand vast as a sail. "Nobody," Odysseus replied, the lie slipping easy as water through fingers. Then, in the giant's stupor, the men heated a stake in the fire, its tip glowing like a captured ember, and drove it into that single eye with a hiss like rain on hot stone. Polyphemus roared, a bellow that shook the cave walls, clutching his face as blood welled warm and dark. He fumbled at the boulder, howling to his brothers, "Nobody tricks me," and they, lumbering from their caves, grumbled and turned away, voices fading into the night. Morning came gray and hushed, the sheep milling in confusion. Odysseus bound his men under the bellies of the rams, wool soft against skin, and as Polyphemus groped for the flock, they slipped free, the last ram heavy with Odysseus's weight, its breath warm on his neck. Out into the light, the ship waited like a faithful dog, and they rode with the urgency of whispers, the blinded giant's curses chasing them across the water. "Poseidon will drown you yet, nobody, for this." But the sea held calm that day, waves lapping gentle as apologies, carrying them onward. From there, the winds turned kind for a spell, islands passing like pages in a slow book. The floating isle of Aeolus, where the Wind King lived in a palace of bronze, his halls echoing with breezes tamed in leather bags. He gifted Odysseus such a bag, tied with silver thread, holding all winds but the west. Zephyr, soft as a lover's sigh, to bear them straight to Ithaca. For 9 days and nights they sailed, Odysseus at the helm, eyes fixed on the horizon's faint line, sleep eluding him like a shy dream. But on the 10th, land rose, cliffs of Ithaca, the smoke of home fires curling thin. The crew, restless with nearness, untied the bag in greed, thinking gold gleamed within. Winds burst free in a howl, a storm that spun the ship backward, waves towering like patient giants, crashing them east again to the very shores of Aeolus. The king, seeing the folly, turned away, his face stern as carved rock. "Begone, fool-marked man, the gods scorn you." Undeterred, they limped to the Laestrygonians, a folk of tall shadows in a fjord, deep and still. At first, welcome seemed warm. A girl at the well, her pitcher brimming clear, leading them to her father's hall where tables groaned, under loaves and meats steaming soft. But night fell and the giants came, wives with voices like cracking ice, husbands hurling boulders the size of millstones, ships splintered like dry twigs, men vanishing into cauldrons bubbling over fires that spat sparks into the dark. Only Odysseus's black ship escaped, rowing through the night with oars that bit deep, the screams of comrades fading behind like echoes in a cave. Grief settled heavy as dew, the survivors' eyes hollow, voices muted to the lap of waves. Then came Circe's isle, Ea, wrapped in woods where trees whispered secrets to the ground. A year they stayed, under her spell of soft enchantments. Lions and wolves tame as kittens, rubbing against legs with purrs like distant thunder. Circe, with hair like autumn leaves, and eyes deep as twilight pools, turned men to swine with a wand's gentle wave, their snouts twitching in the sty's mud. Odysseus, armed with moly, a herb white as milk, root black as night, gift from Hermes, who walked the glades like morning mist, resisted, drawing sword with a whisper of steel. She yielded, her voice a caress, leading him to her bed of silk and shadow, where time dissolved like sugar in wine. The crew, restored by potion slow and steaming, joined feasts that stretched days into haze. Bread soft as clouds, wine flowing endless, music from a loom's rhythmic hush. But Odysseus dreamed of home, the pull like a tide on his bones. And Circe, tracing his palm with a finger light as air, warned of trials ahead. The siren's song, a lure soft as forgotten names. Scylla's cave, jaws gaping in the cliff's quiet maw. Charybdis, the whirlpool's patient suck. They left at dawn, the ship laden with cheeses wrapped in leaves, wind and sails like a held breath. First, the sirens, women on rocks worn smooth by waves, their voices weaving through the air like threads of silk, promising knowledge of all sorrows past and joys unborn. Odysseus, ears unstopped but self-bound to the mast with ropes that creaked soft, heard their call. "Come, Ithacan, hear of your glory, the bards who will sing your name eternal." His men rowed on, waxen ears, faces set like stone, the song fading to a sigh as the island slipped astern. Then the strait, narrow as a thought, where Scylla lurked, 6 heads on necks like serpents in grass, snatching 6 men in a blur of teeth and cry, their bodies vanishing into her den's dark. Charybdis yawned opposite, swallowing sea in gulps that foamed white, but they hugged the cliff, hearts pounding slow as drums in fog, deeper into the west, the edge of the world, where sun sank into ocean's stream. There, in a grove of poplars shedding leaves like tears, the ghosts gathered. Odysseus dug a pit with hands steady as ritual, pouring libations of honeyed milk, sweet wine, water clear as dawn, black ram's blood steaming on the earth. Shades rose misty from the ground. His mother, Anticleia, pale as new moon, telling of Penelope's vigil, Telemachus's growth, Achilles, glory's price a shadow on his brow, Agamemnon, betrayed in bath's warm steam. Tiresias the seer came last, blind eyes seeing far, staff tapping soft on soil. Home waits, but trials linger. The suitors in your hall, feasting on your wealth like locusts on ripe grain. Poseidon's wrath in storms that brew slow, the cattle of Helios, sacred and still, grazing isles of light. Eat not their flesh, or ship and soul are lost. His words hung like dew, then faded with the mist. They sailed east, the dead's murmurs trailing like wake. The sun climbed higher, days warming with promise, until Thrinacia appeared, bright as polished bronze, home to Helios's kinswomen, Lampetia and Neaera, tending herds that lowed gentle in meadows. Odysseus warned, "Touch not the cows, their eyes like fire, hides gleaming gold." But winds pinned them, moons waxed and waned. Hunger gnawed slow as rust. Eurylochus, voice trembling like leaf in gale, led a raid. Knives flashing dim, fires kindled low, meat roasting with sizzle soft. Zeus darkened the sky, thunder rolling distant, and Poseidon stirred the deep. Dawn brought storm. Ship splintered on rocks like thoughts dashed. All lost but Odysseus on a mast's remnant, clinging through 9 nights of swell and spray, salt-crusting lashes, until Phaeacia's shore kissed his feet, sands warm as forgotten bed. The Phaeacians, folk of skill and sea, found him, naked and spent, under olive trees' shade. King Alcinous welcomed in hall of bronze, Queen Arete with eyes kind as hearthlight, feasts unfolded. Bards singing of old woes in tones that lulled like rain on thatch, games where youths hurled discs with arcs graceful as swans. Nausicaa, princess with laughter like brook over stones, who first spied him by the river. Her ball rolling near like fate's whim, gifts piled high, cloaks soft as mist, gold tripods gleaming dull, a cup chased with vines in twine. Odysseus spoke then, at their bidding, his tale pouring slow as wine from amphora. Troy's fall in smoke's curl, Cyclops' cave with cheese rind thick, Circe's bower of forget, the ghosts' pale parade. Tears traced their cheeks, silent as dew on grass, and Dawn's fingers touched the hall when he finished. They launched him home on a ship swift as thought, oars dipping unseen. Sleep, wrapping him deep as earth's core. Ithaca rose, gray in pre-dawn hush, and there he woke, alone on sand. Gifts hidden in cave of nymphs, where roots delved deep, disguised by Athena as beggar, bent and ragged, rags stiff with brine. Staff gnarled as old root, he sought the swineherd Eumaeus, whose hut smoked thin, loyalty warm as stewpots bubble. Eumaeus, face creased like well-worn leather, shared bread crusty and cheese sharp, tales of the master's long absence, pigs rooting soft in sty. Telemachus came from Pylos, wind-swept visit to Nestor, whose words flowed like honey from comb. Then Sparta's halls where Menelaus spoke of Egypt's sands shifting slow. Father and son met under oak's arm, Athena's veil lifting like mist burned off, recognition a spark in dark. The hall waited. Suitors sprawled like weeds in garden untended. Antinous, loud as cracking branch, Eurymachus, smooth as oiled tongue, feasting on oxen slow roasted, wine drained from jars stamped with Odysseus's seal. Penelope, upstairs in chamber dim, wove her shroud unending, thread pulled taut, then loosed at night. Her heart a loom of hope and ache. Odysseus entered as beggar, staff tapping stone. Eurycleia, nurse of old, hands wrinkled as riverbed, washing feet in basin warm. tracing scar on knee from boar's tusk in Parnassus glade, where earth ran red and slow. She gasped, water spilling like secret spilled, but he hushed her with finger to lip, eye steady as star. Telemachus cleared arms from hall, suitors scattering like leaves in gust. And then the test. 12 axes in row, steady as sleep's approach. Odysseus strung the bow, string humming low as bee in bloom, arrow threading rings with whisper straight. Now, he said, voice calm as sea at rest, and arrows flew, each thunk soft as heartbeat. Suitors falling in heaps, blood pooling dark and still. Penelope came down, slow as dusk, eyes searching his face like map half read. The bed, he said, olive trunk rooted deep, unmovable as truth, and she knew then, rushing to arms that held like harbor after storm. Dawn broke golden, suitors' kin murmuring far, but peace settled, soft as fallen leaf, and so ends the wander. The tale folding quiet as wave on shore. Sleep now, dear listener. Let Ithaca's olives sway in your dreams as the echoes of Troy's fall fade into the salt-laced air. Our wanderer turns his gaze to the west, where the sun dips slow into the sea's embrace. The ships of the Greeks, their hulls scarred by years of brine and battle, slip from the Asian shore like leaves released from autumn branches. Odysseus stands at the prow of his vessel, the wind tugging gently at his cloak, carrying scents of pine from distant hills and the faint, lingering smoke of pyres that mark the end of a decade's hush. His men, faces etched with the quiet wear of survival, man the oars with strokes as even as breaths in sleep. The sea stretches before them, vast and unhurried, a blanket of blue threaded with silver where the light plays soft on the waves. Poseidon's grudge simmers beneath the surface, a current pulling unseen, born from the Cyclops' blinded. Rage in caves yet to come, but its shadow already darkens the horizon. For now, though, the passage feels almost kind, the sails filling with a breeze that whispers promises of home. Ithaca lies there in Odysseus's thoughts, not as a map of rock and olive, but as a rhythm. The slow creak of his throne in the empty hall, the drip of water from cave roofs where he played as a boy, the way Penelope's fingers once traced the lines of his palm under starlight, reading futures in the whirls like tea leaves in a cup. The fleet scatters early, each captain drawn by his own pull toward the forgotten bays. Agamemnon sails north, his mind on Mycenae's golden halls, where Clytemnestra waits with eyes like still pools hiding stones. Menelaus veers south, chasing Helen's shadow across warmer waters, their ship cutting foam that curls lazy behind. Nestor, wise and weathered, hugs the coasts where waves kiss pebbles in endless murmur. Odysseus bids them farewell with nods, grave as nods to graves, his voice low against the wind. May the gods grant fair winds and firm landfalls. There, prows part like fingers unclenching, and his own ship veers west, 12 benches strong, 24 oars dipping in time. The rowers chants a lullaby of heave and haul. First landfall comes soft on the third dawn, the shore of the Cicones unfolding like a scroll half unrolled. Ismarus, their city, nestles at the feet of hills clothed in vines heavy with grapes that hang purple as bruises from summer's end. The men, bellies hollow from salted stores, murmur of rest, of wine to warm the blood thinned by sea chill. Odysseus grants a day, no more, his counsel a thread pulled taut. Take what sustains, but leave the hearth's peace unbroken. Yet hunger clouds judgment, and as the sun climbs slow to noon, they spill ashore, sandals whispering on sand still cool from night. The raid unfolds in the hush of midday, when the cicones sleep under awnings strung with drying herbs, their breaths deep as the earth's own. Odysseus's men move through streets narrow and shaded, olive branches brushing walls whitewashed smooth. Doors ease open on leather hinges, revealing jars of oil gleaming amber, loaves stacked like quiet pillows, and amphorae of wine dark as the wine-dark sea itself. They gather gently at first, arms filling with bounty. Cheeses wrapped in fig leaves, their rind soft and veined, dried figs plump as forgotten kisses, and that wine, heady with the taste of earth after rain, poured from spouts into skins that slosh content. But voices rise, a cup clinking too loud, a foot scuffing tile, and the cicones stir like a hive nudged by wind. Warriors rouse from siestas, their spears leaning in corners like old friends called to duty. Shields of oxhide slung over shoulders broad from years of vintage toil. From the hills above, reinforcements descend, paths trodden smooth by goats' hooves and shepherds' steps, their cries carrying faint over the rooftops like birdsong turned sharp. Arrows begin to fall then, not in storm, but in steady patter, feathers whispering as they arc from bows strung with gut still warm from the kill. Odysseus calls retreat, his horn a low note blown across the water, summoning the men back to the beached ship where waves nibble at the strakes. They run heavy laden, feet sinking in the surf's soft edge, bundles clutched like children in arms. 6 benches fall silent that day. 12 men gone, their forms crumpling in the vine rows, blood seeping slow into the soil that birthed their wine. The survivors haul the hull afloat, oars churning foam white as milk, and Ismarus recedes, its towers blurring into haze, the hills swallowing the last cries like a mother drawing breath. Grief settles on the deck like dew at twilight, heavy and chill, the men's eyes fixed on the sea's flat calm, as if answers lay in its depths. Odysseus paces the planks, worn smooth by countless feet, his hand trailing the rail where barnacles cluster like tiny stars. He speaks then, words measured as drops from a ewer. We mourn, but the west calls. Let this loss be a weight we carry light, fuel for the oars that bring us home. They eat sparingly that night, bread dipped in wine from the raided jars, its warmth spreading slow through limbs, easing the ache of wounds bandaged with strips torn from cloaks. The wind freshens with the moon's rise, a quarter crescent hanging low, silvering the crests that rise and fall like breaths in unison. Stars prick the dome overhead, familiar as the scars on his crew's hands, and Odysseus charts by them, the bear's tail pointing true. Sleep comes in watches, 2 hours each, heads pillowed on coiled ropes that smell of tar and salt, dreams threaded with faces. A comrade's laugh from Troy's eve, the curve of Ithaca's bay at dawn. Dawn breaks pale, mist veiling the sea like a bride's veil, and they row into it, the world narrowing to the dip and lift of blades, the splash faint as rain on leaves. Days blend then, 5 or 6, the horizon, a constant line unbroken save by seabirds wheeling lazy circles, their calls thin as wire. Rations dwindle slow. Barley meal stirred into porridge gray as storm clouds, olives black and wrinkled from the hold's depths. Thirst gnaws edges off talk, voices husking to murmurs. But the sea gives fish sometimes, silver darts hauled over gunwales on lines baited with gut. They clean them by the rail, scales flaking like snow, flesh pink, and yielding under knives honed on whetstones that sing soft. On the seventh morn, land hums into view, low and green, fringed by breakers that foam gentle on reefs like lace. The Lotus Eater's Isle, they learn later, a place where time pools still as a forgotten pond, fed by springs that bubble clear from earth veined with roots. The ship grounds soft on sand the color of honeycomb, and a party of 6 rows ashore in the skiff, oars feathering the water to avoid the hush of coral heads beneath. Odysseus watches from the mast, hand-shading eyes against the sun that hangs high and white, baking the deck to warmth that seeps through soles. The beach welcomes with palms arching overhead, fronds rustling like silk in the breeze off land, carrying scents of bloom and damp loam. No walls rise here, no spears glint, only figures tall and slender, skin bronzed as if kissed endless by light, approaching with steps light as deer on moss. They offer no words at first, only fruits from baskets woven loose. The lotus, pale pink petals curling like ears attentive, its core juicy and mild, tasting of honey left too long in the comb, sweet with undertones of forget. The men eat, one bite leading to another, the juice trickling chinward like lazy tears. Eyes soften then, shoulders dropping as if unburdened of helms forged in bronze. They sit in the shade of cliffs worn smooth by wind's patient hand, legs folded under, and talk turns to idleness. Stories half spun of homes left behind, trailing off into sighs that blend with the lap of waves on shore. One speaks of his wife's garden, herbs curling tender from black soil, but the words dissolve midway, replaced by a gaze at the horizon's curve, empty now of meaning. Hours pass unmarked, the sun wheeling slow across the dome, shadows stretching long as fingers reaching. Odysseus sends a runner back, but the man lingers too, lotus pulp staining lips, returning with tales mumbled of peace unbroken. Why haste when the air hums so? Concern stirs in the king's chest, a flutter like moth wings against lantern glass, and he gathers the rest, voice firm yet soft as oarlock creak. We came for water, not dreams that bind. They row ashore full strength, the skiff grating on pebbles, and find their comrades lulled in groups, faces slack as sleepwalkers, refusing the call with hands waving slow, palms upturned like begging bowls. Force becomes the thread then, reluctant as pulling thorn from flesh. They lift the dreamers one by one, arms slung over shoulders, feet dragging furrows in the sand fine as powder. Protests come muffled, pleas woven with visions of endless noon. But the ship waits, its mast a finger pointing west, bound to benches with ropes coiled from the hold, thick as wrists, smelling of hemp and brine. They haul away, the isle shrinking to a green smudge, its springs still bubbling unseen, feeding blooms that nod in breeze. The affected men weep quiet through the night, tears carving paths down dust-streaked cheeks, their minds adrift on lotus haze. Odysseus tends them with water from skins, cool and tasteless, and words like balm. The forgetting passes, hold to the stars that guide. Dawn clears their eyes, memory returning in waves gentle as tide, faces flushing with shame, soft as dawn's first light. They take up oars renewed, strokes sinking to the old chant, and the ship presses on, the sea opening wider, a mirror reflecting clouds that drift like thoughts unformed. Winds veer north now, cool breaths from mountains cloaked in snow far off, carrying chill that raises goose flesh on arms bared to sun. Fish leap in schools, bodies flashing silver, and the lookout calls them up with nets cast wide, hauling in mackerel fat and firm, their eyes round as beads, guts spilled overside, pink coils vanishing quick in the blue, and the catch roasts on spits over a brazier fed with olive wood scraps, smoke curling thin, scent mingling with salt to stir hollows in bellies. Nights deepen the voyage's hush, the moon waxing to full, a disk pale and pitted hanging low. Odysseus lies wakeful often, deck planking pressing ribs, listening to snores ragged from rowers' lungs, the slap of halyards against mast like distant rain. Dreams come then, fragmented as waves on rock. Penelope at her loom, shuttle clicking steady, threads white and gray, weaving a shroud that grows inch by inch. Telemachus by the fire, shadows dancing on walls frescoed with hunts, his voice cracking as he questions elders on the absent king. He wakes with salt on lashes, not from sea but eyes own well, and rises to check the stars, their wheeling a comfort cold as stone. A week slips by in this rhythm, rations holding steady, spirits lifting with each league logged in mind. Then, on a morning veiled in fog thick as wool, voices drift from the mist, low and lilting, like shepherds calling flocks across valleys green. The crew stills oars, blades hovering, hearts quickening soft, and Odysseus strains forward, hand cupping ear. Land, he breathes, and they ease toward it, the ship ghosting through gray, hull kissing water with barely a sigh. The fog parts gradual, revealing cliffs sheer as cut cheese, rising from sea that foams white at their base. Caves gape in the rock face, mouths dark and echoing with bleat of unseen herds, the air heavy with tang of salt and sheep's wool matted damp. This is Cyclopes' country, wild land where law sleeps deep, each giant his own realm in hollows carved by time's slow hand. No fields plow here, no vines train neat, only pastures lush from rain that falls unbidden, grass waving knee-high in breeze off waves. Curiosity tugs Odysseus like a line on fishhook, and he chooses 12, the stoutest hearts, volunteers with eyes bright as new bronze. Jars of wine go with them. Strong vintage from Ismarus, 12 skins full, sloshing dark, its bouquet rich as earth turned after storm. For gifts, he says, and God's favor in strange halls. The skiff bears them shoreward, oars muffled in rowlocks stuffed with cloth, and they beach on shingle that crunches soft underfoot, pebbles round as worry beads. The climb is steep but sure, paths winding up like veins on leaf, tufted with thyme whose scent bruises under boot. Goats scatter at approach, bells tinkling faint, their eyes yellow as yolk watching from ledges. The cave looms then, entrance vast as ship's hold, stones strewn like playthings of child vast, and inside, the dim holds pens of wicker for ewes great-bellied, their udders swaying full. Cheeses age on shelves of rock, wheels rind-crusted white, and milk buckets stand brimming, foam beating on rims like lace. They wait in hush, shadows pooling at feet, until dusk paints the sky bruise purple, and footsteps thunder, earth trembling faint, like a distant herd passing. Polyphemus enters, silhouette filling the mouth like a storm cloud doorway, his bulk unfolding as he stoops. one eye central in brow, lid heavy as folded sail, lashes thick as rope. He drives flock before, rams woolly and meek, hooking gate with pine staff thick as mast, then turns to milking, fingers sure on teats, streams hissing into pails with rhythm steady as rain on thatch. Fire kindles next, branches crackling soft, flames leaping to light his face, beard tangled as seaweed, teeth like boulders whitewashed. The men shrink deeper into crannies, breaths held shallow, but Odysseus steps forward, bowl brimming wine, arm extended slow. Stranger greets giant from lands far east. Share this drink, dark and sweet, in name of Zeus who watches wanderers. Polyphemus takes it, sniffs deep, nostrils flaring wide, then gulps, throat working with swallow loud as wave on hull. Good, he rumbles, voice gravel in barrel, handing bowl empty. More, and Odysseus pours, the jar yielding slow, each draught loosening the giant's limbs, eye glazing mild. Laughter bubbles then, deep and rolling, as he reaches for sheep nearest, twisting neck with snap faint, entrails spilling warm to fire where fat spits and sizzles. 2 men he takes that night, arms like branches snapping them up, bones crunching under teeth that grind deliberate, marrow sucked with slurp wet as sea on weed. Dawn filters gray through cracks, the cave a tomb of hush broken only by flocks stir. Polyphemus rises groaning, boulders for sheep his morning toil, gate rolled with rumble that shakes dust from rafters. The men, huddled in fear's fold, watch him grope for ewes, hands patting wool blind to the forms beneath. Odysseus whispers plan, voice thread in needle's ear. Bind to bellies, rams strongest for cover, their warmth a shield soft. Ropes from packs, twisted hemp, lash legs to legs, arms to under wool thick, and, as the flock mills out, they move with it, hidden in sway. Odysseus clings last to ram gray as storm, its breath huffing warm on neck, heart thudding against the great chest's rise. Polyphemus pats heads, fingers coarse as bark grazing close, but passes, gate grinding shut behind. Down the slope they creep, woolen burdens slipping free in thicket, and run to skiff waiting, oars churning to ship with strokes desperate yet silent. Wine jars empty, 2 benches vacant. The sea receives their grief in waves that rock gentle. Nobody's trick, the giant bellows after, voice carrying far as curse on wind, calling kin who lumber near, staffs tapping stone. Nobody blinds me. They laugh low, turning back to caves, leaving him to rage alone, eye socket welling dark. Poseidon hears, though, from depths green, his trident stirring currents slow, promising gales that build like grudge-nursed long. The ship flees south, coast fading jagged, and night wraps them in velvet, pierced by stars cold. Odysseus pours libation over stern, wine arcing red to foam, words soft to see. Forgive the need, earth-shaker, home draws me. But the god's ear turns from plea, and winds hold steady for now, carrying them to isles where breezes dance free. Days pass in mending, nets knotted anew, oars sanded smooth, wounds salved with herbs bruised from holes, fish grill golden, flakes parting tender under knives, and talk turns to wonders past. Troy's walls gleaming at dawn, Helen's steplight on marble, laughter comes rare, a bubble surfacing, chased by silence thick as fog. Then Aeolus's realm rises, floating isle, bronze-walled, clouds coiling base like dogs at rest. The king dwells there, hair whipped wild by airs he commands, hall's echoing sigh of zephyrs tamed, welcomed with feasts slow, beef roasted rare, juices pooling warm, bread honeycomb crumbed, wine spiced with cinnamon drift from isles east. A month they bide, tales spun long as nights, Odysseus recounting Troy's siege in tones measured, crew mending gear by lamplight flicker. Gift comes at parting, bag leather bound, silver threaded, holding winds all but west. Zephyr kind, filling sails with push even. Keep tide, Iolus warns, eye keen as hawks, lest chaos loose. The ship flies then, 9 days, 9 nights, Ithaca's cliffs ghosting near at last. Smoke thin from home hearths curling, welcome, but greed stirs in dark, crew whispering by watches. Gold hoards he, while we scrape wave. Fingers fumble knots at midnight hush, bag yawns, gales howl free in frenzy white-capped. Ship spins back east, waves towering patient, crashing deck with wash cold as iron. Aeolus sees return, face stern as cliff, turning door shut. Fate marked, be gone, gods weave your woe. Limping on, they beach at Laestrygonian's fjord. Cliffs twin like gates ajar, waters still as mirror. Welcome seems warm, maiden at spring, pitcher brimming, leading to city white as bone. Halls vast where king sits throned, queen with voice crack like frost on pane. Tables set long, loaves piled soft, meats steaming under domes of salt. Night falls velvet, but giants rouse, boulders raining skyward. Ships splintering splinter by splinter. Men boiled in pots bubbling slow over fires that glow red. Black ship alone slips straight, oars biting deep. Screams trailing fade like dreams end. Half crew gone, the sea tastes bitter now. Swells rocking empty benches. Odysseus weeps quiet under stars, salt mingling tear and brine. Home a whisper fainter, the last echoes of Laestrygonian. Boulders fade into the sea's vast hush. Odysseus's ship drifts onward, a lone shadow on waters that seem to hold their breath. The survivors, fewer now, their benches echoing with absence. Row with strokes deepened by sorrow, oars dipping like slow heartbeats into the swell. The air carries a faint chill from the north, mingling salt with the memory of screams swallowed by fjords, and the stars above wheel in their ancient paths, indifferent companions to the weary. Ithaca feels farther than ever, a dream half faded, its olive groves and quiet bays reduced to whispers in the wind that fills the sails. With a sigh almost tender, days unfold in a rhythm unbroken yet heavier. The sun tracing lazy arcs from horizon to horizon, painting the deck in gold that warms the wood but not the spirits. Fish are caught and shared, their flesh grilled over coals that glow soft orange. Flakes parting under knives to reveal pink translucence steaming faint. Bread, hardened from the hold, softens in wine poured from jars that clink gentle against gunnels, its taste a bridge to lands left behind. Talk comes sparse, voices low as the lap of waves on hull. Remembrances of lost faces, a hand on shoulder like anchor in drift. Odysseus stands watch often, his form silhouetted against the moon's pale curve, eyes scanning the dark for signs, winged shapes or foam that might herald peril. On the 10th dawn, land emerges soft from morning mist, an island low and wooded, its shores fringed with bays that cradle the sea like open palms. Aiaia, they name it later, realm of Circe, daughter of Helios, whose chariot warms the day, and Perse, earthborn with whispers in roots. Smoke curls thin from a rooftop distant, carried on breeze scented with pine resin and wild thyme crushed underfoot. Odysseus sends a scouting party, Eurylochus at lead, his step cautious as fox on frost. Ashore in the skiff, blades sheathed, but hands near hilts, the air humming with unseen life. The path winds upward through oaks, whose leaves rustle like silk secrets, ground carpeted in violet blooms nodding heavy-headed. A glade opens then, centered by a house of polished stone, vines climbing walls in green embrace, their tendrils curling lazy. Wolves and lions pad the clearing, forms massive yet tame, eyes golden as amber catching light, rubbing flanks against trees with purrs deep as distant thunder. No growl rises. Instead, a hush falls, as if the beasts dream still. The men freeze, hearts thudding soft. But Circe appears at the threshold, her form draped in folds of linen fine as mist, hair cascading auburn waves, eyes deep as twilight pools reflecting stars unborn. Strangers from the wine-dark sea, she calls, voice a melody woven soft. Come warm by my fire, share bread and tales of wonder. Baskets brim with cheese white and creamy, barley meal fine as dust, honey golden from hives hidden in hollows, and hydromel sweet as dew on rose. They enter, the door easing shut with click faint, and seats offer cushions stuffed with wool carded smooth. Circe moves among them, cup in hand, brimming potion whose steam rises fragrant, coriander seed and pennyroyal, scents blending to lure. Eurylochus sips last, eyes on the threshold, but the drink touches tongues, and change comes swift as shadow at noon. Bodies twist in haze, limbs shortening, snouts pushing forward pink and twitching, bristles sprouting coarse along spines, grunts replace words, eyes small and rolling in panic, as men become swine rooting in the sty beyond. Mud, cool under trotters. Troughs filled with mash, acorn bitter. Eurylochus flees, stumbling through underbrush that snags cloak, breath ragged as torn sail. Reaching the ship with tail gasped. Enchantress turns us to beasts. The crew murmurs fear like wind in reeds, spears gripped tight. But Odysseus steals, voice calm as stone in stream. I go alone. Prepare the ropes if cries call. Hermes meets him on the path, form young and lithe. Caduceus twined with serpents sleeping, wings at ankles folded neat. Molly guards you, the god murmurs, handing herb white-petaled above, root black as earth's core, scent sharp as garlic crushed. Chew it deep, draw steel when she wands. Odysseus nods, the root's bitterness coating tongue like truth unpalatable, and presses on, the glade unchanged. Beasts circling slow as if in trance. Circe welcomes again, her smile a curve soft, offering the cup whose steam curls inviting. He drinks, the potion sliding warm, but no change grips. Instead, sword whispers free, point at her throat pale as pearl. She yields, knees folding to tile cool, voice trembling thread. Olympian spared you, sheath your blade, share my bed as guest turned friend. The hall shifts then, servants, nymphs with laughter like brook, over pebbles, bearing, baths of water-scented rose, oils warmed in bowls of bronze. Odysseus bathes, steam rising gentle, muscles easing under hands that knead knots from years at oar. Robes drape him, linen soft against skin, and the feast renews. Pork roasted slow, crackling gold, apples sliced thin with juice beading, wine poured in streams that sing faint against goblets chased with vines. He demands his men, and Circe leads to sty where pigs wallow, her wand waving lazy, grains of dust motes golden in sunshaft. Flesh softens, bones lengthening with creak like young tree in wind, voices returning hoarse at first, then clear with wonder. They bathe, too, halls echoing splashes muffled, and join the board, eyes wide at the plenty. Loaves warm from oven's breath, fish from stream-netted silver, figs purple and yielding under teeth. A year slips by in this weave, seasons turning slow. Autumn leaves drifting gold to hearth, winter rains pattering on thatch, spring blooms unfurling pink, summer sun baking stone to warmth that lingers night. Time pools like wine in bowl. Days filled with idleness gentle, hunts in woods where arrows find deer standing still as statues, pelts soft under hands, lyre strings plucked low by fire's glow, notes weaving tales of gods' quarrels hushed, gardens tended, earth turned black and friable, seeds pressed deep to sprout green spears. Odysseus wanders cliffs at eve, sea far below breathing steady, thoughts drifting to Penelope's loom, clicking distant, Telemachus's voice deepening in hall empty. Circe reads his silences, her touch light on arm, tracing veins like rivers on map. The west pulls you, but threads bind here, yet fates decree descent to shades, to learn home's path from Tiresias blind. She gifts then, at season's turn, ships stocked, cheeses wrapped reed tight, water skins brimming clear, wind in sails like breath released. The crew rose from shore, Aiaia fading green behind, its smoke a thread uncoiling. First peril whispers on breeze. Siren's Isle, rocks worn smooth by waves' caress, where women perch with wings folded, hair streaming weed tangled, voices rising pure as flutes in glade. Fame awaits Ithacan, they croon as ship nears, song threading air like honey poured slow. All sorrows learned, joys untold in our arms, promises of Troy's hidden guiles, Ithaca's secrets guarded, lovers' whispers lost. Odysseus, forewarned by Circe's murmur, stops ears with wax softened sun-warm, needing plugs deep as vows. Himself he bids bind to mast, ropes circling chest and arms tight as fate's knot. Cry forbidden though heart strains. The crew rows blind to song, oars dipping even, faces set like prows to wind, beeswax sealing pleas. He hears full, the lure wrapping mind like fog on harbor. Visions of Penelope yielding smile, Telemachus tall at side, glory sung by bards in halls oak beamed, struggles tear ropes raw, voice muffled roar, but bonds hold, wood groaning soft, and isle slips past, rocks gleaming wet, song fading to echo thin as shells sigh. Relief washes deck like rain after drought, plugs pulled, limbs freed with rubs that sting sweet. They eat cheese rind crisped, wine-cutting thirst, and press on. Sea narrowing to straight where cliffs loom twin, sheer as polished marble-veined gray. Left Scylla's cave, right Charybdis's maw. Perils twinned, no middle safe. Circe's counsel echoes, hug the crag, lose 6, save ship. Odysseus arms not, For no bronze turns the nymph's hunger, but dooms his men with dove-soft words. Fate chooses. Row true. They skirt the left, oars feathering water still as breath held, air thickening with salt and something fouler, like breath from grave unsealed. From cleft high, heads emerge, 6 on necks serpentine, slavering jaws, ringed teeth like millstones, gulping air with hiss. No pause. They snatch, arms flailing brief. 6 men hoisted skyward, legs kicking vain. Screams cut short as bodies vanish down throats gulping slow. Odysseus watches, hand-clenched rail till knuckles whiten, their pleas lingering like smoke. Why not you, Captain, in this? The ship flees, straight widening, gore dripping rock face in streaks dark, and Charybdis yawns opposite, sea funneling down in whirl foam flecked, timbers shuddering as suck pulls gentle then fierce. They clear, sun-dipping west, and beach on isle quiet. Sands silver under moon half full. Grief claims the night. Empty benches filled with cloaks folded neat. Names murmured like prayers to waves. Dawn brings resolve. Oars manned by remainder. And winds bear east, toward world's edge where sun bathes in ocean's flow. Circe's map unfolds in mind. Groves of Persephone, poplars shedding leaves pale, willows drooping fronds like hair unbound, where shades gather mist thin. Dig pit square as shield, she said. Pour blood sweet, honey milk wine water, ask Tiresias first. The ship grounds soft on strand gray. Breakers sighing retreat, and Odysseus leads inland, mattock over shoulder. Crew with jars brimming dark. Grove finds them. Trees whispering leaf fall. Air chill as cave draft. Earth soft under spade's bite. Pit forms slow, sides even, and offerings flow. Ram's blood steaming earthward, black as night pooling, then mead sweet, milk foaming white, water pure, wine red as lips parted, shade rise gradual, vapors coiling from ground like breath from sleeper's mouth. Mothers, sons, warriors pale, hands outstretched vain for touch. First his mother Anticleia, form faint as smoke from hearth gone cold, eyes welling shadow, wasting pined, daughter-in-law steadfast, boy hunts truth in halls of kings. Achilles next, shade swift even in death, glories wait a sigh. Better toil on earth than lord shades here. Agamemnon, throat-gashed faint line, warns of wife's wile. Bath's steam turned trap. Then Tiresias, staff tapping soil damp, blind eyes piercing veil. Home near, but suitors gorge your board. 20 years absent, slay them quiet. Shun Helios's kine on Thrinacia, or all drown in God's gale. Words hang heavy as dew, shades drifting back to fade, and Odysseus weeps, arms round mother vaporous, her form dissolving touchless. They sail renewed, sea warming under sun climbing steady, isles passing unnamed. One with birds wheeling white as foam, another hill's terraced vine. But haste grips now, west calling clear. Thrinacia looms then, bright as bronze hammered thin, meadows glowing green. Herds lowing soft under care of Lampetia and Phaethusa. Daughters Helios fair, their eyes like lamps unlit. Land but one day, Odysseus bids, voice thread in wind. No touch to cattle sacred, milk or flesh. Winds pin them though, calm sea-mocking. Moons cycling twice, hunger carving hollows deep as wells. Crew murmurs mutiny soft. Eurymachus leading, Gods send storm, sacrifice owes them. Knives find throats in dusk hush, blood warm on grass, fires kindled low, meat roasting with sizzle faint, fat dripping clear. Lampetia sees, swift to father, men slay your kine. Zeus darkens heaven, thunder grumbling distant, and Poseidon stirs deeps, waves building slow as grudge. Dawn breaks storm-lashed, ship torn from shore, timbers splintering on reefs like thoughts dashed, crew swallowed one by one in foam's roar, cries blending with gale's howl. Odysseus clings mast remnant, lashed tight, 9 nights adrift, salt crusting skin, sun blistering brow, thirst cracking lips, until Ogygia's wave kisses feet numb. Waves cradle the masts, remnant like a mother's arms, rocking Odysseus through nights endless and days blurred by salt-stung eyes. The sea, vast as a dream half remembered, whispers against his skin, foam tracing patterns faint on bark worn smooth. Hunger gnaws quiet at edges, thirst cracks lips to whispers, but will holds like root in stone, fingers clenched around the lashings that bite wrists raw. Stars wheel overhead, cold points in black velvet, and gulls wheel too, their cries thin as distant flutes calling land unseen. 9 suns rise and set, painting horizons in strokes of rose and gold. Before Ogygia's shore sighs welcome, breakers sighing soft on sands that gleam pearl under dawn's first touch. The island unfolds gentle, cliffs draped in ivy green as spring's first leaf, valleys cradling streams that chuckle over pebbles round. Woods of alder and poplar sway in breeze off waves, their leaves a hush like secrets shared. Odysseus drags himself from surf, limbs heavy as sodden wool, collapsing under an aspen's shade, where roots delve deep and cool. Sleep claims him then, deep as earth's core, body curling small, breaths evening to the rhythm of leaves overhead rustling faint. Nymphs find him at noon, forms lithe as willows bending, their steps silent on moss, eyes wide with wonder at the man washed from God's own wrath. Calypso, fairest of immortals, daughter of Atlas, who holds heaven's pillars steady, dwells in cave veiled by blooms of celandine and violet, its mouth curtained by vines heavy with grapes unripe. The air within hums sweet, scented with cedar resin and thyme dried slow. Fires crackling low on hearths of silver ore. She tends him with hands soft as rain on petal. Baths drawn warm from spring, oils of ambrosia smoothed over scars that map his wanderings, like rivers on old parchment. Bread she bakes, golden crusted and light as cloud. Cheese from goats that browse her slopes. Wine poured slow from jars whose clay glows warm. Words she offers too, voice a melody low. Rest here, wanderer, where time folds gentle as wave on shore. Days stretch to weeks, then years, 7 in all. Seasons turning soft in her realm untouched by winter's bite. Mornings begin with sun filtering gold through boughs, birdsong weaving through the cave's hush like threads on loom. Odysseus wakes to her touch, fingers tracing jaw stubbled gentle, leading him to meadows where wild goats amble lazy, their bells tinkling faint. He hunts with bow strung loose, arrows finding hearts with whisper, pelts stretched taut to dry in breeze that carries sea's clean tang. Afternoons find them by the fire, her weaving on loom whose shuttle clicks steady, tales spilling from his lips. Troy's walls crumbling slow in night, Cyclops' cave with milk pails brimming, Circe's hall where men forgot their names in wine's warm haze. Yet home pulls constant, a thread taut in his chest, dreams painting Ithaca's bays in moonlight silver, Penelope's form distant as star. He weeps often at cliff's edge, sea far below breathing steady, tears tracing paths saltier than brine, mingling with spray that rises mist-like. Calypso sees, her eyes deep as pools where shadows sleep, and offers love immortal, skin warm as sun-baked stone, arms that promise forever's calm. Stay, she murmurs, lips brushing temple. Share my bed where no storm reaches, no god's grudge darkens door. He yields in body, nights folding into her embrace like sails furled at dusk. But mind drifts west, tracing constellations that point to rocky shores and olive throne. Hermes comes at season's seventh turn, wings at ankles fluttering silent. Caduceus twined with serpents that coil lazy. Zeus's word he bears, spoken on peaks snow-capped. Release the man, sea-girt one. His fate lies not in caves eternal. Calypso's face clouds brief as passing squall, but yields, voice steady as earth's turn. Go, if go you must, but sea hungers for mortals. Poseidon's heart still stone. Tools she gives. Bronze axe hafted strong, adze smoothed by use, planks from trees felled slow. Alder straight as arrow, fir resinous and light. Odysseus shapes the raft. Days under sun climbing warm, saw teeth singing through grain. Pegs hammered home with mallet thud soft. Hull curves gentle, deck planed even, mast stepped firm from pine whose needles carpet ground. Sails she weaves, linen fine as her own shift, dyed purple from murex shells crushed slow. Provisions stock the hold. Skins of water clear as mountain run. Wine dark in amphorae sealed clay. Bread wrapped reed tight. Flesh of goat-cured salt. Dawn of parting. She leads him to shore where waves kiss sand like lovers' farewell. Eyes meeting his with ache unspoken. The gods envy mortals' brief flame, she whispers, hand lingering on arm, then turns to cave where echoes wait empty. Winds fill canvas with breath even, zephyrs kind from west, and raft slips seaward, oars dipping rhythmic as heart's ease. Days pass untroubled at first, sun tracing dome overhead, dolphins arcing bowward, their skins sleek as oiled bronze flashing blue. Fish leap schools silver. Lines trailed astern, yielding tuna fat and firm, grilled over coals banked low, smoke curling thin to feed the breeze. Stars guide nights, the bear's tail unwavering, and sleep comes deep on deck planking warmed by day. Dreams of home sharpening like knife on stone. 18th dawn, Poseidon stirs from sleep in halls coral-crusted, trident gripped loose, eye narrowing on the speck adrift. Nobody escapes, he rumbles, voice thunder muffled in deep's green, and south wind howls answer. Notice fierce as grudge long nursed. Clouds boil black from horizon's edge, sky darkening to wool unspun, waves rearing tall as cliffs unborn, foam crests white as milk from you. Raft pitches wild, timbers groaning deep as bones in ache, spray sheeting horizontal, stinging eyes to squint. Odysseus lashes self to mast with cloak torn strips, knots double like vows unbroken, and rides the maelstrom, gut churning with each plunge into trough black. Lightning cracks sky, illuminating swells that tower patient. Thunder rolling after like herd on plain. Days blur, 2 or 3 or 4, sun lost in gray, thirst returning fierce as blade, lips swelling, cracked. A rock looms then, dark fang in foam, and he clings barnacle-crusted, fingers numb, skin a braiding raw, until goddess aid whispers, Eno, Leucothea once mortal, sea-born now, veil light as air she drapes, urging shore unknown. He casts mast adrift, veil buoying like wing, and swims. Strokes measured against currents suck, waves folding overhead like blankets heavy. Gods war above, Athena pleading calm to uncle's rage, winds veering grudging, swells easing to roll gentle. 4 days, 4 nights the labor, muscles burning slow fire, until Charia's coast unfolds, Phaeacian land where olive trees march to sand, breakers sighing retreat on pebbles round. He kisses earth damp, tears welling fresh, limbs collapsing under Tamarisk's arm, sleep folding deep as caves hush. Dawn touches him gentle. Nausicaa wandering shore with maids, laughter bubbling like spring over stone, ball-tossed arc white against sky. The orb rolls near, fetching her step to thicket where he stirs, form ragged as storm-tossed weed, eyes shadowed deep. Fear flickers brief in her breast, hand to throat pearl-strung, but Athena veils him fair, voice honeyed. Princess kind, aid a shipwrecked wretch, no harm in these hands calloused by wave. She softens, cheeks blooming rose, bidding maids prepare bath from river clear, oils scented lavender, cloak fresh from press, linen soft as cloud's underbelly. Clad thus, he follows to city white-walled, streets paved marble smooth, fountains trickling melody faint. Palace of Alcinous rises, bronze thresholded, dogs silver-wrought guarding door, gardens blooming endless, pears golden, figs purple, grapes clustering vine like thoughts unbidden. Queen Arete greets in hall vast, eyes keen as shuttle's eye, noting cloak her daughters weave. Feasts unfold slow, oxen roasted rare, joints carving tender, bread loaves warm, wine poured in streams that sing against gold. Bards sing woes of old, lyre strings humming low, notes drifting like leaves on autumn breeze. Games dawn next, youths gathering plain green, discuss hurled arcs graceful as swan's flight. Odysseus, watching quiet, form still as statue mossed. Taunt stirs him from Laodamas, words light as thrown stone. Stranger joins, or fears the dust. Rage simmers soft, but Athena breathes strength, and he looses discus far. Beyond marks set, earth thudding faint, crowd hushing awe, applause rises murmur, and Alcinous bids. Tell your tale, guest. What name, what lands claim you? Night falls velvet, hall lit torches flickering gold, and Odysseus speaks, voice measured as ore in calm, tale pouring slow as wine from ewer. Troy first, walls high as God's own, apple golden rolling fate's first thread, voyage long, Cicones' vines yielding wine dark, men lost in Arrow's sigh. Lotus Isle next, blooms pale forgetting names, comrades dragged back weeping haze. Cyclops' cave with cheeses rind thick, Polyphemus' eye hissing steak hot, ram's wool warm on escapes cling. Aeolus' bag winds tide, greed loosing storm's white howl. Laestrygonians' boulders splintering hulls like dreams dashed. Circe's glade with beasts tame rubbed, potion turning swine to men restored. Year woven in feasts endless thread, Sirens' song luring knowledge soft. Ropes binding cry to masts grown, Scylla's heads snatching 6 in Maw's gulp, Charybdis funneling sea to foam, underworld's pit blood-steamed, shades rising mist, mother pale with home's vigil, Tiresias warning suitors' feast and kind's taboo, Thrinacia's meadows bright, hunger carving knives to sacred throat, Zeus's bolt splintering all but his lone cling, tears trace cheeks silent, Arete's hand to breast, Alcinous's brow furrowing deep, gifts pile then, mantles folded neat, gold ingots dull gleam, tripod bronze for hearth, sword-hilted ivory smooth, dawn ships him, hull swift as thought, oars dipping unseen under rowers' spell, sleep wrapping deep as earth's fold, Ithaca wakes him, gray in mist, gifts stowed cave nymphs, Athena veiling beggar bent, rags stiff brine, staff gnarled root, eyes keen beneath brows bushy, swineherd's hut finds him, Eumaeus loyal, face creased leather warm, sharing stewpot bubble, tales of hall overrun, Telemachus returns, wanes from Pylos' sands where Nestor spoke honey slow, Sparta's marble where Menelaus dreamed Egypt's slow Nile. Oak shades their meat, veil lifting mist burned, arms clasp brief as breath held, suitors sprawl hall, Antinous voice cracking branch, Eurymachus tongue oiled, oxen slow roast, wine sealing jars stamped king's own. The hall of Odysseus stands as it always has, a sturdy frame of stone and timber hewn from the island's own bones, its threshold worn smooth by generations of feet, padding soft across the flagstones. Smoke from the central hearth curls upward in lazy spirals, carrying the scent of roasting, meats and herbs bruised, gentle, thyme and rosemary gathered. From slopes where bees hum low through summer's end, tapestries hang heavy on walls, threads faded to whispers of hunts and seas long calmed, their colors blending into the shadows that pool in corners like forgotten thoughts. The air hums with the low murmur of voices, the clink of goblets against tables scarred by knives, and the distant bleat of sheep from pens outside, settling for night. Suitors fill the space like weeds in an untended garden, their forms sprawled on benches cushioned with fleeces soft from the shear, tunics loose and stained with wine's careless spill. Antinous leads them, his youth sharp as a blade's edge, voice rising now and then like a breeze stirring leaves, commanding servants with a flick of wrist-jeweled ring. Eurymachus follows close, words smooth as oil on water, his laughter a ripple that draws nods from the rest. Young lords from nearby isles, drawn by tales of Penelope's grace, lingering in halls that once echoed with the king's own quiet counsel, they feast without measure. Oxen led from pastures green, throats slit with mercy quick, haunches turning slow on spits, where fat drips steady into flames that crackle soft orange. Loaves break warm from baskets woven reed tight, olives black and brine-kissed, cheeses veined blue from ewes' milk curdled gentle. Penelope moves above, in chambers lit by lamps whose wicks burn steady, oil-scented lavender faint. Her loom stands sentinel, shuttle resting now in threads half-woven. A shroud for Laertes, her father-in-law, promised to the suitors long ago, unraveled each night by candle's hush, so the task stretches endless as hope itself. She descends sometimes, slow as dusk on stairs of olive wood, polished by hands long gone, her form draped in veils that float light, eyes deep as pools where moonlight sleeps. The suitors rise at her step, voices softening to murmurs of flattery woven thin. Queen wise, grace our board. Choose among us. Let the hall ring true again. But she turns, words aside like mist burned off by dawn, her smile a curve faint, heart anchored to the sea's far whisper. Odysseus, veiled still by Athena's touch, form stooped as ancient root, rags patched coarse hanging loose, staff tapping stone like heartbeat, measured. Lingers first with Eumaeus in the swineherd's stead, a hut of daub and thatch where fire glows low, stewpot bubbling lentils soft and pork rind crisped. Tails pass between them under stars pricking the thatch roof's gaps. The swineherd's youth on Ithaca's slopes, goats trailing paths, worn goat hoof smooth. Odysseus spinning yarns of Crete's dusty plains. A captain famed with wounds that ache phantom. Loyalty warms Eumaeus's face, creased as well-worn leather. Bread shared crusty, wine poured in bull-horn carved, its warmth spreading slow through veins chilled by brine. Telemachus joins them at Eve's fold, his form taller now, shoulders broadening from Pylos' winds and Sparta's marble halls where Menelaus spoke of seas crossed slow. Athena's veil lifts gentle as fog lifting, and father sees sun clear. Eyes like his own, sharp yet soft, hands calloused from lyre strings plucked low, and spear-thrown arc true. Arms clasp brief, a moment held like breath in lung, words whispered low. The gods bring you home. The hall waits, but shadows crowd it. Plans weave then, threads careful. Telemachus to clear arms from storage dim, suitors lulled by games and wine. Odysseus to enter as beggar, test the soil before the seed. Dawn breaks pale. Mist veiling bays where waves sigh against pebbles round, and the king sets forth, staff in hand gnarled as olive branch bent by gale. Paths wind down through groves where dew beads leaves heavy, birds stirring nests with chirps faint as dreams half woke. The great gate looms, gates of ash wood banded bronze, eased open by Argos. Old hound once swift as shadow, now limp on dung heap, hide matted flea bit, ears prick at step familiar, tail thumps weak once, then stills in death's quiet hush, unseen by the ragged form passing. Into the yard, where doves coo soft in eaves, and a beggar other, old Iros, bones loose as wind-shook reed, hobbles near, voice slurring challenge. Hall's full, stranger, move on or fist meets jaw. Odysseus straightens fraction, eyes steady as sea at rest, words calm. Peace, elder, I seek crust, not crown. Suitors watch from porch-shaded vine, laughter bubbling low as wine from spout, Antinous tossing bone gnawed clean. Let them dance, the beggars reel, blows faint light, the old one crumpling heap, and Odysseus spares, hauling him aside gentle as fallen leaf. Melantho, maid once tender nursed, eyes him cold, words sharp as thorn. Vagabond, be gone, hall's no place for filth. But Penelope calls from above, voice threading down like silk. Bring him, girl, strangers bear news of the lost. Up the stairs he climbs, slow as sap rising, chamber opening to air sweet with cedar chest and wool carded fine. Penelope sits, form straight as young reed, eyes searching his face lined deep, like map half rid under lantern glow. Tell me, wanderer, of the man gone 20 years. What lands, what fate? He weaves tale careful, voice low as wave on sand. I met Odysseus in Crete's halls, cloak fine, words of home-pulling heart. He sails near, winds kind at last, tears well in her eyes, slow as rain on petal, hand to breast where heart beats steady ache. Stay then, guest, share bed of servant soft, though halls grow cold. Down again to board, where suitors feast renewed, goat stewed tender, barley stirred thick, wine flowing jar to cup in stream unending. Antinous eyes him sour, bread hurled hard as stone. Eat, cur, but speak not. Odysseus catches, chews slow, words even. Youth bold, but rashness sours the vintage. Blow falls then, chair splintering faint, blood-welling lip split, yet he holds. Athena's breath cooling rage to embers banked. Night deepens, hall emptying to chamber's guest. Snores, rumbling distant. Telemachus beds him, couch near fire's dying glow. Embers pulsing red as heart's own. Dawn stirs early. Suitors gathering yard for throw of discus smooth. Arcs silver in light climbing. Odysseus watches quiet. Form bent by wall where ivy clings, until iris stirs again. Bruise blooming cheek, and talk turns to the bow. Great weapon of horn and wood, strung once by suitors' vain hands, unbent as will unyielding. Penelope descends, veil drawn light, voice carrying clear as brook over stone. Hear me, lords who press my choice, tomorrow the test. String the bow, loose arrow through 12 rings axe set. Winner claims hand and hall. Murmurs rise soft, eyes on the chest where weapon sleeps, wrapped oilcloth, its curve like sleeping serpent. They agree, heads nodding slow, and feast turns merry. Harp strung low by Phemius, notes drifting like mist. Tales of gods' loves hushed in mortal beds. Eurylochus speaks wine loosed. Queen fair, why this trial? Youth yields to time, but hearts hold true. She turns, gaze distant as horizon's line. The bow knows its master, let it speak. Odysseus rises then, rags shifting soft, voice humble as dew. Lady gracious, once I saw that bow in halls of old, grant a beggar's hand to try, though limbs weaken slow. Laughter ripples board, Antinous choking mirth. Fool's fancy, the bow mocks cripples. But Penelope bids, chest opened slow, key turning lock with click faint, weapon lifted reverent, dust brushed gentle. Night falls heavy, suitors bedding early, wine's warmth pulling sleep deep. Telemachus slips to yard, arms from storehouse dim. Spears ash hafted, shields oxhide stretched, swords bronze edged. Stowed, porch shadowed. Odysseus tests string alone by hearth's last coal, fingers tracing grain worn familiar, curve bending easy as reed to breeze. Arrow knocked whisper still, dawn paints east rose, hall filling slow, servants bearing water ewers warm for hands, towels linen soft. The test unfolds unhurried, suitors drawing first. Laodies, pious, trying gentle. String taut as nerve, slipping hand raw. Eurymachus next, muscles bunching slow. Sweat beading brow, bow creaking groan but holding firm. Antinous last, face set stone. Wine cup drained deep for strength. Yet wood resists. Fibers straining sigh like breath denied. Ill-omened day, he mutters, handing off, eyes narrowing on the beggar by door. Telemachus calls, let the stranger try. Fetch the axes, 12 in row steady. Servants murmur, but obey. Blades set line on stone, rings bronze glinting dull. Odysseus takes bow, form unfolding fraction, rags falling loose, fingers wrapping grip like lover's palm. Hall stills, breaths held shallow, as string hums low under touch, bending smooth to full draw. Arrow resting light, gaze steady as star's path, he looses, shaft whispering air, threading rings clean as thread through needle's eye, thudding target soft beyond. Silence hangs thick as fog on bay, then cry rises ragged. Stranger cheats, but Penelope knows, heart leaping quiet, hand to lips pearl bled. Athena's veil drops full, form shifting tall, cloak fine as mist, eyes keen as hawk's flight. Eurycleia, he says, voice calm as sea hushed. Bring arms from porch, the time folds. Nurse gasps, scar on knee tracing under lamp once bathed, but nods, tears tracing cheek slow. Suitors stir confusion, hands reaching empty, but spears fly from shadows, shafts humming death's low note, piercing throats and breasts in strokes measured. Antinous first, arrow to gullet mid-sip, wine spilling red as blood welling, form slumping bench with sigh final. Eurymachus pleads, words tumbling soft. Mercy, king, blame one, spare rest. But shaft answers, hearts bloom dark on tunic white. They fall one by one, hall filling cries muffled, bodies heaping gentle as leaves autumn shed, blood pooling flagstone cool, scent metallic faint under hearth smoke. Melanthius, goatherd false, drags spears from store, but Eumaeus and Philoetius bind him porch post. Knife ending please with hush quick. Women huddle stairs, sobs weaving thread, and dawn creeps gold through windows louvered, painting gore in light soft. Odysseus turns to sun, voice even. Clear the hall, salt the dead for pyres slow. Peace returns like tide to shore. Penelope descends stair slow, feet bare on stone chill, eyes searching the man scarred knee-deep. Who are you, archer true? She whispers, hand outstretched tentative. He smiles faint, scar pulling lip. Wife patient, the west yields at last. Bed proves then, olive trunk rooted chamber floor, unshifted as vow, and she knows. Arms folding round like harbor, after gale long dawns, light filters through the hall's high windows, louvered slats casting stripes of gold across the flagstones, now slick with the night's dark work. The air hangs heavy, laced with the metallic tang of blood mingling slow with the hearth's dying embers, their glow fading to ash-gray whispers. Bodies lie heaped gentle in the morning hush, forms twisted in final poses like fallen branches after a quiet storm, tunics soaked crimson, limbs sprawled at angles soft as sleep's own surrender. Odysseus stands amid the quiet, his cloak unclasped now, falling loose around shoulders broad from years at sea, eyes tracing the faces once bold. Antinous with lips parted mid-protest, Eurymachus's hand still curled as if reaching for goblet tipped. No triumph stirs him, only the steady ache of home reclaimed, a weight lifted slow as fog from bay. Telemachus moves first, his steps measured on stone chill, face pale as new linen, but set firm as oak root. Father, he murmurs, voice threading low through the stillness. The gods have favored. Let us cleanse this place of shadow. Odysseus nods, hand resting brief on son's arm, the touch a bridge across years stolen by waves. Call Eumaeus and Philoetius, he says, words even as oar in calm, and the women true-hearted. The false ones wait their turn. The swineherd and cowherd come running, feet padding soft from yard, where dawn dew beads the grass, their eyes widening at the scene but bows held steady, loyalty afire banked low. Servants gather slow, the faithful ones. Nurse Euryclea with hands trembling faint, her apron clutched like anchor, maids whose eyes dart to corners shadowed, breaths shallow as leaves in breeze. They fetch water from the well, ewers brimming, cool and clear, cloths linen soft dipped and wrung with drips steady. Bodies lift one by one, arms slung over shoulders broad, carried out to yard where pyres wait unbuilt, wood stacked neat from olive limbs felled quiet. Salt scatters over flesh pale, grains white as snowflake clinging, to draw the earth's slow kiss and ease the spirit's wander. Flames kindle gentle at noon, branches crackling soft orange, smoke rising in curls lazy to sky blue and vast, carrying scents of pine resin and thyme crushed underfoot. Penelope watches from threshold, her form framed in doorway arched, veil drawn light across brow, eyes deep with tears held back like tide at full. She steps forward once, hand brushing Odysseus's sleeve, fingers tracing the weave of wool worn thin. Husband returned. The hall breathes again, but shadows linger in stone. He turns, cupping her palm in his own, calluses rough as ship's rail meeting skin, smooth as river pebble. Peace folds now, wife steadfast. The west has yielded its last. They stand thus, the pyre's warmth touching cheeks, until embers settle to hush, bones whitening slow under sun climbing warm. Word spreads like mist through valleys green, carried on shepherds' tongues and goatherds. Calls, the king walks Ithaca's paths once more. Suitors silenced in hall's own echo. Families stir in homes thatched reed, wives murmuring by hearths where pots bubble lentil thick. Children pausing games of hoop and stick. Eupeithes, father to Antinous bold, rises from bed, straw-padded, staff in hand gnarled as vine root, eyes narrowing grief. My son, cut down like olive branch unripe, blood calls for blood, quiet no more. He gathers, kin in market square where fountains, trickle melody faint, voices rising murmur to rumble low, spears fetched from rafters dusty, shields slung over shoulders hunched. Halitherses, the seer, meets them there, form bent as ancient tree, white beard flowing like waves foam, staff tapping cobble worn smooth. Hold, elders wise, he calls, voice carrying clear as brook over stone. The gods weave this. Odysseus returns by Athena's breath, no curse but justice slow. But rage simmers hot in Eupeithes' chest, words spilling like wine overspilled. Justice? A beggar's trick in our own halls. We march, or Ithaca forgets its sons. They move then, a column winding paths olive-shaded, dust rising faint under sandals laced tight, toward the great house where peace settles new. Odysseus hears from porch-shaded vine, where doves coo soft in eaves, his form still now, bow laid aside like old friend rested. Telemachus stands at side, spear ash-hafted gripped loose, eyes scanning the rise of hill distant. They come, father. Numbers swell like stream after rain. The king rises slow, cloak fastening with brooch gold, voice calm as sea at rest. Let Athena speak, our hands hold if she bids. Athena comes then, form veiled mist. owl's wings folding silent at her shoulder. Touchlight on air turning it chill, she breathes over the host, fear folding their steps to halt, knees buckling soft as reed in wind, shields clattering pebble path. Eupeithes presses on alone, age lending fire brief, spear raised high as branch in gale, but arrow hums from shadows. Telemachus's shaft, true as thought, piercing throat with whisper, form crumpling quiet to earth cool. The rest turn, cries fading to sighs, scattering back to homes like leaves in autumn gust. The square emptying to echo of footfall gone. Halitherses nods grave, staff pointing west. Heed the signs, folk of Ithaca, peace roots deep now unplucked. The hall clears fully by eve's fold, stones scrubbed to gleam under cloths wrung steady, blood's stain yielding slow to water's patient flow. Maids false. Melantho, with eyes once bright, now downcast. Others who whispered suitors' beds, bound hand to wrist with cords hemp twisted, led to yard shadowed. Odysseus speaks measure. You chose shadow over light, the rope or blade, fate's own. Tears trace their cheeks silent, pleas weaving soft, but noose knots gentle, forms swaying brief in breeze off bay. Then, still as sails becalmed, the true ones mourn quiet, hands to mouths pearl bled, but duty holds like thread unbroken. Night falls velvet, stars pricking dome overhead cold, and the family gathers chamber inner, bed of olive trunk rooted floor unyielding, sheets linen fresh, smoothed by Euryclea's hand. Penelope leans close, head on shoulder broad, breath warm on neck. 20 years wanderer, dreams wove you near, but waking holds you now. Odysseus traces her brow with finger light, lines soft as river bend. The sea taught patience, wife. Ithaca's earth teaches rest. Telemachus beds near, lyre strings plucked low, notes drifting like mist. Tales of Pylos's halls where Nestor spoke honey slow of Troy's long hush. Days unfold gentle after, rhythms old resuming like waves return to shore. Mornings find Odysseus in fields terraced vine, hands soil dark turning earth friable, pruning branches heavy grape, their skins waxen under sun climbing warm. Goats browse slopes time-scented, bells tinkling faint, Eumaeus whistling tune old as hills. Penelope weaves no more shroud endless, but cloth fine for hall's own, shuttle clicking steady, threads white and gray blending peace. Telemachus hunts with spearlight, arcs graceful through wood where deer stand still as statues, pelts stretched taut to cure in smoke low. Laertes visits slow, from farm where figs ripen purple on tree bent, his form frailer now, eyes dim as lantern low but brightening at sun's step. The gods spare you, he murmurs, hand gnarled clasping wrist, and Ithaca blooms again. They walk groves olive shaded, paths trodden goat hoof smooth, speaking quiet of years folded. The ploughs furrow straight, the olive presses groan steady, wine flowing amphora deep. Athena watches from peaks distant, her form mist veiled, owl circling wing silent. Favor a breeze, kind filling sails of future calm. Seasons turn soft in this weave, autumn leaves drifting gold to ground carpeted moss. Winter rains pattering thatch gentle, spring unfurling green spears from black soil turned. Feasts mark turns, boar roasted slow over coals banked, crackling rind gold. Apples baked soft with honey drip, wine poured in streams singing faint against horns carved. Bards come wandering, lyres slung shoulder, singing Odysseus's tale in tones measured. The wooden horse's belly dark, sirens lure fading sigh, Calypso's cave with blooms celandine. Notes weaving night to hush, listeners' eyes half closed, dreams stirring slow, yet echoes linger faint, in quiet moments by fire's glow pulsing red. A suitor's laugh half heard in wind through eaves, or waves crash distant calling sea's old pull. Odysseus wanders cliffs at eve sometimes, sea far below breathing steady, foam tracing patterns lace on rock worn smooth. Home holds, he whispers to salt air, but paths once walked echo soft. Penelope joins then, hand in his, fingers lacing like roots entwined. The wander ends. Rest folds now like sail at harbor's kiss. Nights deepen the peace. Moon waxing full disk pale, hanging low over bays where waves lap pebble endless. Sleep comes easy in bed, rooted deep. Breaths sinking slow as tides rise. Dreams painting not storms but meadows bright. Herds lowing gentle under care of nymphs fair. Ithaca hums life quiet. Markets where spices scent air like forgotten rains. Fountains trickling melody. Children chasing shadows, narrow streets. The king rules measure. Counsel given low in hall oak beamed. Justice a stream-cutting stone patient. Years slip like sand through fingers loose. Telemachus wedding fair maid from isle near. Halls ringing laughter bubble like spring over stone. Heirs born with eyes keen as hawk's flight. Odysseus ages graceful. Hair silver as foam crest. Lines deepening face like map of seas crossed calm. Penelope at side, form softening gentle. Weaves tales now in words soft, not thread. The gods envy our flame brief, cherish the hush. Laertes fades slow to earth's own, pyre small on hill overlooking bay, smoke curling thin to join the stars' own paths. And so the tale folds quiet, waves sighing shore eternal, olive leaves rustling breeze off Ionian blue. Wanderer rested, home a rhythm heartbeat steady, the world beyond a dream half faded. As the first chill of autumn whispers through the olive leaves, turning their edges to hints of silver under the sun's slanting rays, Ithaca begins to prepare for the quiet rituals that mark the turning of seasons. The air carries the faint, earthy scent of grapes fermenting in stone vats half buried in the hillside, where feet, bare and calloused from summer's toil, tread the pulp slow and steady, juice staining skin to a deep, bruised purple that lingers like a memory of abundance. Odysseus walks these paths at dawn's hush, his sandals leaving prints soft in the dew-damp soil. Staff now a companion more for habit than need, its tip-tapping rhythm gentle as a heartbeat against the ground. The vines stretch in rows neat as thoughts ordered, their branches heavy with clusters that bow toward earth like supplicants, skins taut and glossy under his touch, promising wine that will warm winter nights with its amber glow. Telemachus joins him there one morning, his form filling out to the broad-shouldered grace of manhood full, cloak thrown back against the mild breeze, a basket slung over arm woven from reeds gathered riverside. "Father," he says, voice carrying the low timbre of one who has learned to command without raising tone. The harvest calls. The folk gather at the press, their songs already drifting like mist from the valley. Odysseus nods, eyes tracing the horizon where the sea meets sky in a line unbroken. Waves far below a murmur constant as breath. "Lead then, son. The earth gives what the sea once withheld, and we honor it with hands open. They descend together, paths winding narrow between terraced walls of dry stone. Wild thyme brushing knees with scent sharp as awakened memory. Bees humming lazy paths from bloom to bloom in the undergrowth. The press yard hums with life subdued, folk from crofts scattered. Women with hair-bound kerchiefs faded, sun-bleached. Men with arms sinewed from oar and plow. Moving in a dance unhurried. Baskets brim with fruit, poured into the vat's wide mouth where stone slopes smooth underfoot, and the treading begins. Steps measured, hips swaying gentle to the rhythm of chants old as the island's rock. Words weaving tales of Dionysus who gifted the vine in mercy soft. Juice flows then. Dark rivulets gathering in channels carved deep, collected in amphorae clay, sealed with wax warm, their bellies swelling round as ewes great-bellied. Odysseus dips a cup horn-carved, the liquid tart on tongue, warmth spreading slow through chest like sun on chilled stone, to the gods who watch and the hands that tend. Laughter rises faint amid the press of bodies, a child's voice piping high as he chases a hoop, wooden, rolling, dust-kicked, his mother's call threading after like thread pulled taut. Penelope arrives mid-morn, her basket light with loaves baked dawn fresh, crust golden and yielding under knife's edge, cheese wrapped fig leaf soft beside. She moves among them, form draped chiton simple, hem brushing earth friable, eyes meeting Odysseus's across the crowd with a smile curve faint, a nod shared like secret kept. The vintage blesses, she murmurs when near, hand brushing his arm brief, fingers lacing moment in the small of back, as you bless this place returned. He covers her hand with his own, calluses, rough, meeting skin, smoothed years, gentle. The weave holds, wife, threads of earth and heart entwined. By noon, the work eases to feast spread on cloths, linen worn under olive tree's arm vast. Shade dappling faces, sweat-beaded. Platters hold pork, slow-roasted pit-dug, rind crackling faint under teeth. Herbs rubbed deep before flames' kiss. Fish from bay, netted silver dawn, grilled golden with salt crystals clinging. Figs split open, their hearts pink and seeded. Drizzled honey from hives cliff-nested. Wine flows measured. Poured in streams singing faint against bowls clay-burned. Toasts lifted slow. To the sea's mercy, to the soil's yield, to the king's return that silenced shadows. Bards circle loose, lyres slung shoulder straps leather, fingers plucking strings to hum low. Ballads of wanderers hushed, not the clash of bronze, but the sigh of sail filling homeward. Afternoons drift to mending. Nets knotted anew by women seated stone low. Fingers deft as shuttles pass, lines of hemp twisting tight against tier from rock's snag. Tools sharpened whetstones song steady, edges gleaming dull in light slanting. Odysseus carves beside, knife whispering olive wood, shaping yoke for oxen patient, its curve fitting neck like glove to hand. Telemachus spars light with kinsmen, spears ash-hafted, thumping shield oxhide stretched, laughter chasing parry and thrust, his wife watching from walls lean, babe at hip cooing soft. Peace layers here, unrippled as pond still, the island's breath evening slow to the lap of waves on shore distant, as sun dips west, painting hills in washes rose and amber. The family gathers hall once more, threshold crossed with steps familiar. the great doors of ash-banded bronze easing open on hinges oiled fresh. Hearth kindles low. Embers, banked from morning's ash, stirred gentle. Flames leaping orange to warm the stone that holds heat deep. Servants, true-hearted now, their numbers thinned, but bonds tightened. Bare ewers, water-scented, rose for hands washed. Towels, linen soft, patted dry. Supper unfolds unhurried. Barley porridge stirred thick with milk, ewe fresh. Honey swirled golden eddy. Kid roasted tender. Joints carving easy under knife bronze-edged. Bread warm from oven's breath. Broken shared hand to hand. Talk turns to dreams then. Voices low as the fires crackle soft. Telemachus of voyages planned. Isles near to trade wool, carded fine for spices east-born. Penelope of gardens planned. Seeds from travelers' pouches pressed earth-black to sprout herbs curling. Odysseus listens, eyes on faces loved. Son's earnest, wife's steady. His own words measured. The West taught turns of fate. Here we turn the wheel ourselves, slow as season's hand. Night deepens outside, stars pricking velvet dome. Owls call threading dark like note half-plucked, and sleep calls gentle. Beds straw-padded, sinking body deep. Yet in quiet hours, when moon hangs full and low, silvering the bay's curve, Odysseus rises sometimes, cloak-thrown shoulders loose, wandering to cliff's edge where wind-off water carries chill faint. The sea breathes below, swells rolling patient black, foam cresting white as milk spilled, and he traces constellations wheeling. The bear's tail pointing true, as it did on decks creaking long ago. Echoes stir then, soft as leaf fall. The horse's ribs timber hollow, men's breaths held in belly dark. Polyphemus's rumble cave deep, stake hissing eye hot. Calypso's touch cave-veiled, blooms nodding celandine. Paths crossed. He whispers to salt air, but this shore holds the end. Penelope finds him there once, steps silent on grass dew-slick, shawl drawn light against night's fold. Wanderer still? She asks, voice a caress, wind mingled, hand slipping arm round waist. He turns, drawing her close, chin resting brow, her hair silver-threaded. No more. The sea's song fades to hush, and yours calls home. They stand thus, horizon blending blue to black, waves sighing pebble endless, the world's vast a blanket distant. Dawn touches east then, fingers pale on hill's rim, and they return hand-laced, paths trodden familiar underfoot. Winter folds gentle after, rains pattering thatch like fingers drumming soft, winds veering north to carry flakes rare, dusting olive leaves like frost lace. Hall warms with tales spun long. Grandlings clustered knee, eyes wide as saucers, demanding the Cyclops' cave. Grandsire with rams wool-warm. Odysseus speaks measure, voice low as hearth glow. A giant one-eyed, milk pails hissing stream, but wit turned stake to blind the night. Laughter bubbles small, chased by yawns stretching, sleep claiming curls one by one. Penelope watches, distaff idle lap, her smile curved deep. The bard in you lives, husband. Threads of word now, not wave. Springs unfurl green. Meadows blooming violet and gold. Lambs bleating sty soft under Ewes' watchful eye. Odysseus tends flocks with Eumaeus. Paths goat-trodden winding cliff. Bells tinkling faint as distant chime. Loyal heart, the king says, hand on shoulder creased, Your watch held the hall when mine wandered. The swineherd bows head, eyes mist-veiled. Home called you back. Loyalty calls no debt. They share cheese rind sharp, bread crusty pocketed, overlooking bay where boats bob anchor, hulls tarred fresh against brine's bite, summer's bake stone warm, sun-climbing dome unclouded, heat haze shimmering air like dream half-woke. Harvests yield double, grain threshed flail rhythm, chaff flying gold, olives beaten branch long, droops pattering net spread like hail gentle. Feasts crown the work, boar pit roasted, earth mounded hot, flesh falling bone tender, pears golden tree picked, sliced thin with juice beating, wine new, tart as promise. Folk gather square fountain-centered, waters trickling melody endless, dances stepping measure to pipe's low wail, hands clapping soft. Years weave thus, threads blending seamless. Telemachus's house fills laughter, child high. Hares learning lyre pluck and spear throw. Penelope's hands slow weave to tales told eve fire. Words painting Penelope's own vigil, looms click unending. Odysseus grays full, beard flowing foam white. Steps measured path, but spirit swift as thought. Echoes of wonder fade to legend island whispered. Bards singing halls oak beamed. Odysseus, sea cunning, home's quiet king. He listens quiet, cup wine-warmed lip, heart full as vat pressed, and in the tale's last fold, as even stars dim to dawn's approach, Ithaca endures, a rock in Ionion's blue embrace, waves lapping shore eternal. The wanderer rests full, arms of earth and love entwined, the world's song a lullaby hushed. Sleep now, dear one, let the olives sway dream soft, tides pull gentle to peace profound, as the first frost of late autumn dusts the highest peaks with a veil thin as spider silk. Ithaca turns its gaze inward, the island's rhythms slowing to the deliberate pace of hearths kindled against the encroaching chill. Paths that wound, sun-baked through summer now, crunch soft underfoot, with fallen leaves layered gold and crimson, their edges curling like parchment, aged by time's patient hand. Odysseus rises with the gray light filtering through shutters louvered tight, the air crisp with the scent of wood smoke curling from chimneys scattered like breaths across the valleys. He dresses in cloak wool thick, woven by Penelope's own fingers in patterns of wave and olive branch entwined, the wool carded fine from sheep that grazed meadows now browning at the edges. Breakfast waits simple by the fire's low glow. Barley, porridge stirred slow with milk still warm from the ew's udder, a handful of walnuts cracked open, their meats pale and earthy under teeth gentle. Telemachus stirs in his chamber adjoining, the door of oak eased open with creak faint, his form filling the frame with the quiet assurance of one who has learned to lead without command. The flocks need counting, father, he says, voice muffled slight by the shawl drawn against dawn's bite. Before the gales heard them cliffward, Odysseus nods, cupping the bowl's warmth in palms calloused deep, the steam rising lazy to mingle with his breath. Go then. The earth counts its own if we listen close. They part at the threshold, sun veering to pastures, terraced where fences of dry stone snake the hillside, daughter-in-law trailing with basket light for herbs, frost-nipped, rosemary needles sharp, sage leaves gray and velvety under fingers trace. Odysseus wanders slower, staff tapping pebble path worn smooth by generations, toward the cove where boats rest hull up on sands silvered by dew, their prows carved dolphin curve facing sea's vast hush. The water laps unhurried at the shingle, pebbles round as worry beads shifting with each sigh, foam tracing lines lace fine that erase themselves in moments. Fishermen gather loose, forms hunched against wind veering north, nets mended by lamplight the night through, lines of hemp knotted tight as vows unspoken. King, one greets, face creased salt and sun, handing coil rope coiled neat. The tides pull early. Join the haul? Odysseus takes it, fingers wrapping familiar, and they push off in skiff low slung, oars dipping even to the rhythm of breaths synced slow. The bay opens gentle, swells rolling patient under hull's kiss, and lines trail astern, baited hooks sinking deep to where cod glide shadow silent, their scales flashing brief as thought in current's flow. Hours pass unmarked. The sun climbing pale through clouds wool thick, casting light diffused that softens edges of cliff and wave alike. Fish rise steady, silver darts hauled over gunwale with splashes muffled, bodies flopping deckwood warm, gills flaring pink. Knives clean them measured, scales flaking like snow gentle, guts spilled sideward to vanish in blue's embrace. Talk drifts sparse, voices low as the lap of water on strakes, remembrances of catches past, a storm once weathered with sail furled tight, the king's own tales held back, saved for hearth's own circle. By noon the hold brims, and they beach soft. Baskets woven willow heavy lifted to market square, where stalls unfold cloth draped. The air humming faint with haggle murmured. Penelope meets him there, her basket traded for cod fresh, eyes meeting his across the press of forms bundled cloak deep. The hall hungers. Your hands provide as sea once tested. He smiles, curve faint, taking the weight from her arm, fingers brushing wrist where pulse beats steady. The test yields now to gift, wife, threads of net and heart alike. They walk homeward together, paths veering inland through groves where olives hang heavy, drupes green and bitter yet, promising oil golden come winter's press. Chickens scatter yard dust at approach, clucks soft as distant rain, and Eurycleia waits door-framed, apron flour-dusted from dough kneaded slow. Fish for stew, my lord. The pot simmers already, leeks soft and carrot rounds. The kitchen unfolds warm, hearth banked high with logs, applewood scented sweet. Flames dancing low to heat the cauldron iron black. Servants move quiet. Maids with hands deft chopping onion layers thin. Tears welling soft. Boys hauling water from spring bubble clear. Ewers sloshing steady. Odysseus cleans the catch by bench stone low. Knife whispering scale and fin away. Flesh filleted pink and yielding under blade's edge. Penelope stirs the pot, wooden spoon circling slow, herbs crushed palm warm added pinch by pinch. Dill, fronds feathery, bay leaf curled like secret kept. The weave of day, she murmurs, steam rising to frame her face, holds flavors as it holds time. Layered gentle, savored deep. Supper gathers the household at eve's fold. Table long oak-polished set with platters clay-glazed, candles guttering wax pools soft in sconces bronze. Fish stew steams bowl deep. Broth clear with flecks herb green. Flesh flaking tender on bread sopped crusty. Walnuts crack shared. their shells splintering faint. Meats passed hand to hand like tokens old. Talk meanders unhurried. Telemachus of fences mended. Gaps stuffed thornbush to turn winds sheep wander. His wife's murmur of babe's first tooth pearl sharp, gums aching night soft. Odysseus listens, eyes on flames pulsing red. His words measured drop. The sea teaches yield. The hearth teaches share. Both bind us close. Night deepens velvet outside. Wines sighing eaves like lovers' breath. Stars hidden cloud veil, but felt in their wheeling silent. Beds call then. Straw fresh turned sinking body deep. Blankets wool woven tucked chin high. Sleep folds Odysseus slow. Dreams painting not tempests, but calms extended. The Phaeacian games discus arc graceful, Nausicaa's laughter brooklight, Circe's bower with wolves circling tame, rub flank soft. He wakes mid-dark once, moon sliver through crack shutter, Penelope's form curve beside, breaths even as tides hush. Hand traces her shoulder blade's wing, skin warm as sun-baked clay. The gods envy our nights brief. Hold this one long. Winter proper arrives unannounced. Gales howling bayward like grudges nursed long. Rain sheeting horizontal to drum thatch relentless. Hall seals tight, doors barred ash heavy. Shutters latched against spray salt laced. Hearth roars then. Logs beach dry fed steady. Flames leaping gold to chase shadows corner pooled. Tails spin longer in this fold. Grandlings, clustered rug fleece, eyes wide, saucer round, demanding the shades mist, grandsire. With Tiresias's staff topsoil, Odysseus speaks low, voice hearth mingled. Pit dug square as shield, blood ram black steaming earth, mother's pale rising vapor, words of home's vigil whispered faint. Yawns stretch small, chased by shivers delighted, sleep claiming curls one by one under shawl shared. Penelope weaves by lamplight flicker, distaff spinning wool fine as mist, threads dyed murex purple slow, patterns of ship and olive maize. Your voice the loom now, she says, shuttle clicking steady, weaving wonder to wisdom hushed. He nods, carving nearby, knife-shaping spoon bowl, curved for child's hand, small. Wisdom rests in the grain's turn. The sea carved rough, the fire smooths. Telemachus reads scrolls papyrus fragile by candle guarded. Tales from traders' packs of lands east where rivers Nile slow wind desert gold. His brow furrowing thought deep. Father, the world stirs beyond. Shall we send ships wool laden? Odysseus pauses, blade mid-whisper. Send if winds call kind. But Ithaca's shore holds the true map. Storms ease by midwinter. Skies clearing to blue washed clean. Frost glittering meadow like diamond dust. Folk venture out bundled. Paths mud-slick trodden firm. To chop wood copse deep. Axes ringing dull on trunks straight. Odysseus joins the crew. Swing measured arm sinew. Chips flying curlwood to pile neat for hauls winter long. Sweat beads brow despite chill. Breath clouding air white. And talk turns to spring's promised. Lambs bleat sty fresh. Vines bud swell green. Lunch shared axe side. Bread pocketed hard with cheese rind crisp. Wine flask passed, warm throat deep. To the turn they toast, cups clay bumped soft. Lent comes gentle, days lengthening, finger slow. Sun touching hill rim earlier, painting east rose pale. Gardens stir then, Earth turned fork-deep black and friable, seeds pressed careful, barley grain hard, pea pods future curved. Penelope kneels row-side, soil caking hem chiton, fingers parting furrow for bloom onion set. The ground remembers, she murmurs, patting earth smooth, as I remember weights woven. Odysseus watches from fence lean. Who idle shoulder? Remembrance roots us. The weight yields fruit unhurried. They work side mute. Harmony in the turn of tool and soil's yield. Birds returning song-threaded from south. Eoster's feast marks the shift. Altars heaped egg-dyed red as dawn's blush. Bread round as moon-baked honey swirled. Hall fills kin scattered. Laughter bubbling faint like spring over pebble. Dances stepping measure pipe low. Odysseus lifts cup to God's names whispered. Athena gray-eyed. Poseidon deep-girt. Thanks for the fold from storm to calm. Penelope's hand finds his undertable long, fingers lacing root entwined, and to the heart that wandered true. Night spins tales, merry, bards strumming lyre gut-strung, notes of Persephone's rise earth-kissed, Demeter's grain gold, spring's deepens bloom heavy, meadows violet-flecked with crocus cup, butterflies wing-dusted flitting air still, flocks lamb anew, ewes lowing soft sty mud, young leggy and wool curl, tails wagging mud flick. Eumaeus tends, hands gentle neck scratch, milk pale brimming foam white. New life, master. The island renews as you returned. Odysseus nods, taking kid small for Hall's pot tender. Renewal circles. The sea's circle closed. Earth's turns endless. They share fence lean, overlooking bay where swells green and patient. Boats launched o'er even for fish silver school. Summer's hint early. Heat haze shimmering vine row. Grapes swelling taut, sun-kissed. Harvest hints in the air. Ferments promise faint. And days stretch long to labor's gold. Yet evenings ease porch shaded. Wine sipped amphora cool. Stars emerging pin-prick to watch the world's hush. Odysseus traces them finger skyward. The bear points west no more. Here the dome centers. Penelope leans shoulder close. Shawl slipped loose. Centers in us. The tale rests told.